Tandem Nomads, episode 41.
So if you're not allowed to work, that can be very frustrating. It can be very demotivating, but that's where you have to make your plan, convert it in such a way that you're still being able to find that fulfillment and to live your own plan.
Welcome to Tandem Nomads, where inspiring expat partners from around the world share with you how they turn the challenges of relocation into great opportunities. So are you following your partner abroad for his or her career? Then Tandem Nomads is the place for you. Go to tandemnomads.com and sign up for the newsletter.
Hello, Nomad Nation. This is Emel Deregi, and today I'm excited to introduce you to Kirsten de Greling-Visman. Kirsten, are you ready for the ride?
Absolutely.
Kirsten is Dutch-Canadian, raised as an expat child across the Netherlands, Canada, the Dutch Antilles, the US, France, and Spain. Kirsten then settled and built her career in the Netherlands as a program manager and career advisor in universities. In 2007, although she was offered 3 major positions by various universities, she took the decision to leave her promising career to join her French-Finnish fiancé. He was sent to Albania for his job. Since then, they had 2 boys and have been moving across Africa to Cameroon, Burkina Faso, and now they live in Zambia. While moving from a country to another, Kirsten has been able to take few job assignments, but also trained to become a certified coach. Today, she is helping expat partners redefine their identity, rediscover their passion, and reconnect to a life and career they love. So, Kirsten, this is a short overview of who you are. Is there anything I missed? And tell us what's happening in your life today.
I think you've captured it very well. I don't have much to add there at the moment. What's happening in our life at the moment is that we're in a bit of a rocky environment. Since last week, there's been quite a few riots which have a xenophobic tint to it, sadly. And there seems to be quite a bit of unrest around some mysterious and suspicious murders. The Zambians are revolting. So they're actually saying, what's happening isn't right, and what's the police going to do to stop it? But there's a bit of unrest going on, and at times it's very close to home. So, we deal with it. We try to explain it to the kids without too many details, and life goes on, but still.
Yeah. So how is it affecting your day-to-day life?
Day-to-day life, it affects in such a way that you have to be on the alert, I guess. And my route to and from school and other places can vary very suddenly. You think you're going home one way, but then you hear that there's riots at the police station around the corner of our house. Like yesterday, lots of tear gas, which was blowing into our garden at the end of the afternoon. So not a great place then to be when you have all that smell.
That must be scary.
It didn't scare me as such. I thought, well, at least the police is there.
Yeah.
It's not a great smell to have hanging around, and you hear the riots from a distance, and you think, well, we're safe around here. But it does affect you because there's spontaneous alerts, so they get sent out in bulk, and warnings. Don't go here, don't go there. And you could see it in life because shops have closed and they're slowly opening up. And the xenophobic tint to it is, the tone to it is not affecting the Westerners, but it's affecting fellow Africans. So,
could you explain us a bit the context? What's exactly happening in Zambia?
About 60 shops that were owned by Rwandans, Ugandans, Kenyans, and Tanzanians mainly had closed because of threats, looting, violence towards them, as this population group is suspected to hide some of the criminals who have committed the murders. And the murders are odd and gruesome, and it's suspected that they're ritual murders, so that body parts are used for other people's success, for business, for political gain, for all those kind of scenarios. And me as a Westerner, I look at this and I think, how on earth can they think that can benefit? But yeah, you do have to deal with different cultures and cultural beliefs. And
how are you feeling about this? What's happening in your mind about your life there right now?
Well, it seems to be calming down this week. That's at least what I pick up. But last week, I wasn't having a great week, no. And it's very easy to then slip into the negative mindset, But Zambia is a great place to be, and I wouldn't want to leave here yet, but without jeopardizing anyone's safety, absolutely. There's no facts. That's the thing. I think there's no facts. And based on no facts, it's very hard to draw any conclusions. But people went crazy. I think there was a wildfire, and that wildfire spread to all the compounds being the shanty towns. So you have staff working for you at home, and they cannot go home because they're not safe. It's not safe for them to go where they live because there's riots outside, there's police outside, there's people with guns outside. It's nothing like a coup d'etat. It's nothing like an ISIS attack. It's nothing like those things. But there's ideas in people's mind that scare them, and they gather together, and things explode. So
I guess you need a bit of time because it's quite recent to process all of this and figure out, how is the situation for the Zambians, but also for you and what you would do, right?
Exactly. And we're not thinking this is going to escalate more because they brought out the riot police, they brought out the army, they brought out a lot more cops, but still, it's also election year. So it can go it can go in all directions. Elections are coming up in August, and Zambia has had a very tough year with power cuts, with a lack of water, a drought, and they're going to feel the effects of that. It's all El Nino, and they're going to be feeling the effects of that in the next months to come. And we've had the end of the rainy season, but we haven't had enough rain, so the water levels in the dam, which provides all the hydroelectricity for the region, it's going to get worse. And we've already been at 8-hour power cuts since May last year.
Thank you for sharing that. How are you coping with it, knowing that you have lived other circumstances in other countries, knowing that you have all these major riots, but also all these aspects that are a luxury, having water, access to electricity. How do you deal with it, knowing that you live there, that's your home now?
I think you take it with a grain of salt. I think it sometimes it really goes on a day-to-day level. But if I look at how we live now compared to when the power cuts started, they were at random and you never knew when they were going to happen. Now they are programmed. So most of the time, you can count on that. Still, there's room for flexibility, and sometimes it's cut off. Like today, it was cut off 5 hours before it was supposed to be cut off, and I'm wondering, does that mean we're going to have almost 12-hour power cut today? That will be interesting, because by the end of it, the inverter will run out. At some point, the inverter will run out, and if it runs out, then it's going to get really dark in the house, and I'll have 2 screaming kids. I'm very unhappy because it is. But
so I guess you learn to be very flexible in these circumstances, right?
I think you do. We used to have just a generator. Now, a generator is great, but it's very noisy and it actually hurts your ears. You cannot stand that for more than an hour or 2. But if your power is off until 10 at night and the electricity and the skies turn black at 6, you've got a very long stretch of darkness ahead of you. And going to bed isn't just always the option, But you become very flexible and you become very creative. And that's where lots of people have boreholes, so that at least we have groundwater. And at least with the rains, the ground level of groundwater has come up. So we're not scared that we're going to still run out of water, for example. You learn to live with it. It's not, and now I feel like I'm in a super luxurious position because we've got hand inverters that just charge electricity when it's on, and then it gives us a 12-hour backup supply, which is great because we don't even notice when the electricity goes off. There's a generator just in case. And yeah, I think we're in a lot better position than many of the locals, sadly. I guess this is one of the benefits of being an expat, that these things are possible. Because if you were to pay this all out of your own pocket at a lower salary, that's going to be very challenging.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, thank you very much for sharing that. But I would like to know more about you. So take us to when you decided to join your husband abroad, and how did you make that decision?
I joined my husband, who was my fiancé at the time, to go to Albania at the end of 2007. And to be honest, I didn't give it much thought. I realized that when he came home with the news the same day that I had 3 job offers that I really, really wanted, to tell me that his job was going to take him to Albania, I had one day of just feeling really, really not feeling so great because I thought, oh my God, I've been working this network to get my own jobs organized for the last 10 months and it's actually happening. I did decide to just follow because I didn't see our relationship surviving otherwise. Albania, it felt like I was going to a whole different continent. I didn't know much about Albania, except for the capital being Tirana. And I thought, well, if I want us to survive, I will have to follow along because a distance relationship isn't going to work to Albania.
So you went there without giving it a thought, really, but just for the sake of your relationship. So once you got there, how did it go for you?
Coming to Tirana was exciting. It was absolutely exciting. It was very different. It was very different from what I'd seen. It was my first time to, the former Eastern European part of the continent. And, Albania had only opened up from communism 20 years earlier. So it was still, it is still very much in its developing stage by the time we moved there. And we had a lovely time. It was a great place to be. The Albanians are wonderful people.
In terms of professionally, how did you manage? Because you said you quit your job, although you had these offers and this dream job that you always wanted. So what did you do to settle down in Albania?
Well, that was a bit of an issue, I guess. Because 4 months into being there, I have a big personal crisis. Because I didn't feel that I was me. I didn't feel that I had any purpose to my life. The walls were crowding in because, I'd followed him, but I didn't have a plan.
You went there, but you didn't have a plan. I think that's a very important point you're bringing up here. Because a lot of expat partners, when they start in this journey the first time, they do not have a plan. And this is one of the main messages I want to share here, is how important it is to actually prepare the ground before we move.
Absolutely. It's vital. I don't do it like that anymore. Yeah. No, it's actually, when I work with clients, it's really, what's your own plan? Draw your own plan. Yes, you can follow your partner, but what's your plan? What do you want to do while you're in your next country, while you're going home? What is your purpose, for going there? What impact do you want to have? What do you want to do? And that's a very tough question for a lot of people. And I learned from it the hard way because 4 months into it, I had an emotional crisis. And my husband comes home to someone who's bawling her eyes out. And he's in total shock. What happened? Well, the one question of what do you want to do changed everything, because within a week I had enrolled in my coach training that I had wanted to do, and I was meant to do while working for the business school before. Mm-hmm. So I'm off to Finland because that was the closest location where I could go and do the intense course. Once into it, I realized what I really, really wanted was becoming a certified coach.
Okay.
And to do that through, at that time, the only internationally recognized institution. That has changed a lot since 2007, but at that time, it was the only institution. Mm. And they were an American coach university, yet they were spreading their wings worldwide, and they had the opportunity for me to follow their fast-track course in Helsinki.
Okay.
So that saved me a year of studies by going to Helsinki for 2 weeks. I had a whole fast-track training, very intensive, with me being the only foreigner in that program. So we had about 15 to 20 Finns participating, and me. So that was a very interesting experience, also with respect to my husband being half Finnish. So for me, culturally, that was very interesting. Now, from there, besides doing my coach training and continuing that through distance learning over the years to follow, I also started working in Albania for the American university, one of them. Anyways, I had established a network. I thought, there's no way I cannot work in education. Education is my thing. And I had started networking at the universities there. I'd figured out which ones were international, because my level of Albanian was definitely not enough to get me by in a job at all. I learned a lot of Albanian while I was there, but no way I could do that, what I do. So I ended up working at the American University in Tirana, which was fantastic. But the day that they told me, yes, let's go ahead, you're going to come and work for us part-time and set up the career services department here for our bachelor students, I found that I was pregnant. Mm-hmm. So I thought, oh my God, that's the perfect timing. Again, for cutting things short. But anyways, I still managed to put in 7 months of work at the university and had a fantastic time doing that.
Wonderful.
I think that was one of the best things I did in Albania for me, was to also work in a local environment. So yes, it was the American university, but it was all Albanian students and majority Albanian colleagues. And it was a great way for me to learn more about the culture, to learn more about the language, because I was definitely learning 5 to 10 different words a day. So by the end of 2.5 years in Albania, I was able to have a pretty decent conversation in Albanian and survive on the streets, because initially it felt like I was a mute. You know, I could walk down the street and I would not know if someone was talking to me, if someone was shouting, if people were talking about me, which they did, because my husband is half a head shorter than me. And that in Albania was just the most bizarre thing for people. So you could hear the gossip. You could hear the gossip behind you. Like, look at that, you know.
So tell us, because that's just the first part of your journey. So tell us real quick, how did you go through all the other countries then, and how did you build up your business, and what has helped you in doing that?
Okay, what has helped me in doing the whole adventure is persistence, I guess. Persistence and motivation to execute my own plan. For me, that would benefit everyone else. But my step into Albania without a plan didn't repeat itself. No, I actually worked with a coach to make my blueprint of, basically a skeleton of what is important to me. And then I could modify that to my new local circumstances. So Albania ended a bit suddenly. when my husband's contract was not renewed, which they told us right before Christmas, which was a great Christmas gift, not really. But anyways, we moved out of Albania without having another job to go to.
Oh, okay.
And by that time, we have a 6-month-old baby.
That must be stressful.
It was stressful. Thank God for having great parents on both sides who supported us and who housed us and who took care of us. And that was quite impressive. And we're very grateful for that, together with some friends who allowed us to stay in their apartments or houses and things like that. But we ended up moving to Cameroon, which wasn't really my wish, but the economic crisis hit Europe really hard at that time, so there was no opportunities for us to stay, and Cameroon was it. And though I didn't want to go, I thought I've done Africa without kids professionally before. I never thought I'd bring my kids to Africa, but here I was bringing my child back to Africa and to Cameroon, and we moved to Yaoundé. I wasn't so excited about going, and then at the end of the first week, my husband has to go for a trip to the Congo, and he gets kidnapped in Kinshasa.
Oh.
So
Okay.
I definitely did not want to stay, but, I couldn't go back. There was no opportunities there either. So what do? You stay, even in a panic state like that, and that was in Kinshasa. It wasn't where we were living, but still, I didn't know anyone at that time. So I just met my neighbors, and thank God for those awesome neighbors, because they definitely took care of me, because I bolted to their house when I found out, and I was in a panic. Brought my little one around, and they just said, "Don't worry, we're going to take care of all of this." What was going to happen? On top of his colleagues, who also came around and said, "Look, it's all taken care of." And it was only for a day, which was lucky, but it was a bit of a scary ride for my husband. And
did you stay then in Africa after that?
We did. We stayed in Africa. We stayed in Cameroon for, again, a shorter period than we were supposed to, because, again, things didn't work out professionally for my husband. So we were actually deciding that, okay, we're heading back to Europe and we're going to stay in Europe. But the day that the container is supposed to be shipped off from Yaoundé to France, my husband gets the confirmation that he has a job in Burkina Faso. So we managed to call the port to stop the container being
bring that over back.
Exactly. It was almost being loaded onto a container ship, but none. And we managed to stop it, and it was redirected to Burkina Faso instead. So we were in Burkina Faso for about 1.5 years, and we had our second baby at that time. I didn't deliver him there, but I had a taste of Burkina before I was born, had my baby in Europe, and came back to Burkina, which was culturally and people-wise an incredible experience. Climate-wise, my biggest enemy. I really struggled with that. I never knew how extreme heat would affect me. I thought I was always quite weatherproof, and up to 40 degrees I was fine. But with the extreme climate of Burkina for about 7 months per year, with temperatures above 40, my days were very short and my energy was just gone. So I wasn't a very happy person there, except super grateful for the wonderful people I met and the Burkina Faso. But coming to Zambia, where we are still today, thanks to those neighbors in Cameroon still, because our neighbors worked for Catholic Relief Services, and they did something for my husband and as in a recommendation that we didn't know about. So then this job came by and my husband applied, and they found a recommendation for him in their computer system. So here we were. That was definitely with him getting the interview. He managed to get this job here, and Zambia has definitely been a place where I was able to reconnect with myself and really come up with a plan for what do I want. And I wanted my traveling business, and that's where we are. It's working. It's taken off this year, and it's been a lot of hard work, a lot of, again, motivation, persistence, and having my plan. I'd given myself a deadline. I said, if I want this business and if I want to pursue my coaching business, which is my portable career, I have to make it in Zambia. If I don't manage to make it in Zambia, I need to come up with a different plan. Mm-hmm. So I got down to getting more specialized because I loved career coaching, and I just wasn't certified to be a career coach. I am now. I started as soon as I got here. And thank God for distance learning and things like that. Have an internet connection, be able to download your classes, and you're pretty set. Yeah. So it's definitely, this is not at the time that I grew up as an expat child and there's no internet.
Yeah, this is an important point you're bringing up here. If I try to, take away some of the lessons of your amazing adventure and journey, I think we insisted quite a lot on the fact of having a plan. That's one of the most important things for expat partners to do. Work on knowing what they want to do and where do they want to go with their life on the long term, not just locally and short term to those countries where we're going. And the second thing is how important it is to embrace technology and internet, which has made such a big difference for expat spouses. A huge difference.
Absolutely. I think it allows you to do so much more and to be so much more than, let's say, 30 years ago. Definitely. It's, my husband's family, my parents-in-law, they were also living the expat lifestyle, and it was because my father-in-law was a wildlife conservationist. But they lived in the bush. They lived in the bush. Yeah. And I don't know how my mother-in-law survived that sometimes. It's crazy. It's crazy. And when I grew up, we grew up in developed countries, still as an expat, and even though my mother wasn't able to work in those places, she would find all the volunteer projects that she could. So if you're not allowed to work, that can be very frustrating. It can be very demotivating, but that's where you have to make your plan, convert it in such a way that you're still being able to find that fulfillment and to live your own plan. Yeah. Be that through volunteer work or be that through distance work. There are opportunities, and it's the creativity that then comes in, where you're able to do what you want to do and get the experiences that you want to have and walk away with when you leave.
Do you have any practical tips on how to prepare our plan before we move to a new country? Anything practical and specific?
Yes, I do. I would say, first of all, have your overall, know your purpose. You call it a purpose or calling or mission, your personal mission. Have that. With that, it's a guiding principle for what you want out of life. And you can get that together by, looking back and say, okay, imagine that you're in your 90s sitting in a hammock or in a rocking chair somewhere and looking back at your life. What do you want your life to have been about? Mm-hmm. And keeping the end in mind. It really is. Keep the end in mind and then work backwards. So for you to achieve that kind of life, what do you do? What are your steps along the way to get there? Because with that as a guiding principle, you can actually take a lot more balanced choices, and you don't fall into a yes trap where you just say yes, yes, yes at everything that comes your way. Well, in the end, it's not going to give you the fulfillment that you want. Mm-hmm. But know what you want, know where you want to go, what you have to offer, and based on that, plan your next steps and make sure that those steps are realistic, make sure that they're achievable, and that they're clearly defined.
Very good. Those are really great tips. Yeah, the fact that you say how important it is to just imagine that we're 90 and we're looking back at our life and what do we want it to be about. And it's not just about, we talk a lot about, career in tandem nomads, because that's one of the main ways that we do create that, independence we want to feel fulfilled and to feel happy, because it's not only about money, it's also about, that feeling of accomplishment. So this is exactly what you're saying here. What have I achieved out of my life? And I like the fact that you said then build, the steps and get to know what you need to do to get there and make it realistic and achievable.
Yes, and you'll have to test it unto your local standard, and depending on the environment you are, you won't just have all the opportunities waiting for you, because of you have to create them, indeed. And it's a principle that goes for professionals as well. Work can consume so much of your life. Do you really want to be stuck in a job that doesn't give you any fulfillment? How is that gonna give you any happiness? How's that gonna How's that gonna have your life? Because you spend so much time in an office or traveling for work, going all over the place. Yet you're not able to get any motivation from it. You're not able to get any energy from it. So even in that setting, I would always say, where do you want to go with your life? And with that, decide which job is right and is a stepping stone. It's about putting your stepping stones in place so that it actually guides you along. And it's a waste being stuck into doing something that you don't enjoy, that doesn't energize you, that doesn't give you any personal development or professional development. And time is ticking. I think economies are also changing. So when you repatriate, and if you haven't done anything that has given you a valuable learning curve, or where you've been able to implement skills that you've got, and where you've been able to develop your so-called genius, then employers are also not going to be waiting and opening their doors for you when you repatriate. And then what? Then you're really stuck. It's so important to think about it, because that day will come for most people. Where they're going back, and then you have a massive gap on your CV. Do you really want that? Then you'll never be able to do what you really want to do either.
It's a very good point. So how do you help your clients know what do they want for their life?
I start with their life purpose. I start creating that, which is the toughest exercise for most people. Because it's about looking what's really important to them. It's like it's digging into, it's doing the soul searching. It's doing giving your purpose, but it's about what's important to you as in your values. What motivates you. Part of it is money, but there's so much more towards motivation than just money. It gives you the lifestyle, but it's the inspiration. It's looking at your skills. Who are you with everything that you've accumulated over the years, be that through studies, be that through work experience, be that through life experience and volunteer work or student activities. All these things matter, and the key is to find a bit of a theme through there to guide them along in that discovery process to what is important. From there, it is defining then what fits that as a tool to get you to your vision. To
like
your vision.
You said, it's building the blueprint, right?
Yeah, it's building that blueprint. And from that, you can start building your network. And thank God for social media. It's so vibrant and it's so valuable. If I see how powerful LinkedIn is in Africa, for example, job opportunities do come up a lot more easily for me, for example, here than in Europe.
Very interesting, huh?
Very interesting, because you're not part of the average professional. coaching here in Africa. In Southern Africa is a lot more known and a lot more popular than in other parts of Africa, for example. Though the world is ready for it here to get coaching, it's not something that they're fully familiar with yet. So I'm building and opening up doors here too. But
it's amazing how, you've been talking about your challenges in Africa and how, despite the fact that you're enjoying it, the day-to-day life is not as easy as maybe in developed countries. But at the same time, and what I also noticed when I was living in developing countries, is the amazing opportunity it brings us to make a difference and to actually be different and bring new services and open new doors in areas that are not familiar in those countries. So it's a great opportunity to be able to live there and do that.
Yes, I agree. I think it's been a great opportunity for me because it's given me the space to gain a lot of valuable experience in an area that's very popular in the Americas or in Europe or Asia, where there's more funding, where there's more people have access to more money. So these services are a lot more common knowledge. While here I've absolutely seen it as an opportunity for me to grow professionally and personally. And I'm not sure I would have had that same steep growth track if I had stayed in Europe. It's just very empowering, and that's what I do with the coaching. It's empower people to take control of their own lives. And it takes guts to follow your partner around and be a nomad, a tandem nomad. It takes guts. It takes a lot of courage, and it's not always an easy ride. And not everyone will understand that it's not an easy ride, except when you're in it. And and that's where I help people along. And it is about learning to adapt to change. It's about self-empowerment, and it's about regaining a sense of direction in your life. That's your own, while you tandem along.
Wonderful. This is an amazing way to actually start ending this interview. I love the way you just summarize it, that it does take guts, and that the whole journey is about finding our path and, how we can make a difference and how we can be happy while traveling the world. And I really love the way you summarized it. But before we say goodbye, I would like to go through the spinning round with you. Are you ready for the spinning round?
Sure.
What are your plans for the coming 2 years?
The plans are to keep going. We don't have plans to leave Zambia yet. We're happy where we are. Zambia, for people who've traveled Africa, is definitely Africa light. So we're happy where we are. And we're not ready to leave yet. So that also gives me a chance to establish my portable business, give it a stronger foundation still than it has at the moment. And I'm very excited about that.
How is it for you? What are you implementing to make it stronger?
I'm implementing, I guess, also a lot more virtual services, and market those and get my name out there.
Using technology and internet, right?
Using technology and internet, absolutely. With that network, you can come a long way, and it doesn't really matter where you are. And it also gives me the chance to enter the market here in Zambia more, because I don't want to just have a distance office. No. I love people. I love working with people and actually being able to have eye contact and see what they're feeling instead of just listening to a voice and not always knowing what that voice is hiding,
I like what you're saying here because, one of the things I try to insist a lot on Tandem Nomads is to use internet and use technology to grow our businesses and be able to make it portable. But it's also important to not forget the real world and connect locally with our world. Otherwise, what's the point of traveling the world if our whole life turns around, internet and all the virtual support there is there, which is great. But I love the fact that you insist on also creating your network locally and making a name for yourself locally.
Yeah, it takes time, but it's very valuable. On top of it, you know what? You meet people here who are, again, also going to spread their wings somewhere. So that also carries your name along.
Wonderful.
And it's like a drop of oil in a puddle of water. You know, it expands.
Exactly.
That's what you're trying.
So tell me, which book would you recommend to tandem nomads?
I have this awesome book that I read in 2 days in Spain last year. And it's The Crossroad of Should and Must. Find and Follow Your Passion by L. Luna. It is fantastic. It tells you to draw your own path and not to worry too much about the path that other people think you should be following, but to really create your own with what matters most to you.
Nomad Nation, please go to the show note page of this episode to find all the information about Kirsten. Kirsten, could you actually tell us what is the best way to find you?
The best way to find me would be through my website that has all my details and Facebook group included.
What's your website's name?
Is www.roadmaptoyourdreamcareer.com.
Roadmaptoyourdreamcareer.com.
That's right.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing your story here and all your great adventures and what you've learned from it.
Thank you for hosting it. It's wonderful what you're doing. I think you're opening up eyes to a lot of issues and a lot of things for people who live our lifestyle and who aspire it too.
Well, thank you for your support.
To connect with other expat partners from around the world and share great inspiration and tips together, join us on our private Facebook group. Go to facebook.com and join Tandem Nomads group.